thank you for joining us on this ceasefire moment. Let's find out a little bit about Matthew. Matthew's name meant gift of Yahweh. He was also known as Levi. He was a customs official in Capernaum. He was hated by Jews because he worked for Rome. Matthew was Jewish, and he was the son of Alphaeus. Matthew was one of the 12 disciples, and he gave a big reception for Jesus at his house. Matthew was a tax collector. He would have had to have known how to read and write and would have been able to communicate in several languages. He would have been among the lowest of the low people. He would have been despised and would have been considered unclean because of his direct contact with the Roman. He wasn't even allowed to testify in court. Generally well off financially because of the fees that tax collectors tended to charge on top of the taxes they collected. He also went by Levi. As a tax collector, Matthew was believed to be unredeemable under the Mosaic law, which is important to think about as we read through his writings and where he came from and what his views would have been. Let's take a good look at Matthew 5. Let's look at the setting of where Matthew 5 takes place. It was along the Sea of Galilee, because it said that in Matthew 4, he went about all of Galilee, the west side of the Jordan, and up on a mount. There is a lot of discussion sometimes about, was it up on the mountain? Was he at the bottom of the mountain and the people were on the top of the mountain? Did he just go up a little bit? But generally, this is the view for theirs that would have been if he had been up on the mount and the people below him, or he would have been standing down here. Either way, this is the view of that area. He was teaching the taught ones, or disciples is what we call them. It was not necessarily only the 12 that we know by name, but it would have been a multitude of disciples. He wasn't just teaching the general public. Let's start taking a look at Matthew 5. And having seen the multitudes were from Matthew 4. It would have been all the people who wanted to be healed and had been following him. He, Jesus, went up to the mount and he sat down. His disciples came to him. So now the disciples have removed themselves from the multitude and followed him to wherever it is that he went. Having opened his mouth, he was teaching them. The literal translation is gave them this Torah, because Torah means teaching. Jesus removed himself, the disciples followed, and now he's speaking to people who are his disciples, the people who have decided to follow him. This concludes this episode of this ceasefire moment. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you learned something.